before talking about the SUNOVA foil drive board, I want to quickly talk about what makes a good foil drive board. And this is from my own experience. This is not something from a foil drive website or SUNOVA marketing. This is from putting the foil drive on different boards over a longer period of time. I've done more than 70 sessions alone this year, more than 100 hours, and I really used a lot of boards, way more than you see right here. Small disclaimer up front, like always, I'm not paid by Foil Drive or SUNOVA to make this review. Foil Drive sent me a demo unit, but unfortunately I do have to send it back, and it's the same with the Duotone Skybrid. It's a rental, don't be gentle. So is the Slingshot WF1V5. All the other boards I actually bought with my own money. So this is an honest and unpaid review. So the first board I tried right after I bought my Foil Drive was the Slingshot WingCraft V2. It's a 60-liter board. It was my go-to wing foil board at the time. It's pretty wide, which is not perfect for a foil drive. It's got more or less a lot of rocker. It's flat here, which is really nice, and you can the max and the slim. It's a perfect fit, and it worked what I thought really good at the time. But I think that was mainly because of the 60 liters in volume, and I could get up easily. It was nice to knee on and to adjust my feet. But after just one session, I knew I more or less outgrew this board. And looking back, it's not a perfect fit. It will work, like foil drive will work on most boards, but some are just a little bit more efficient. And this was just too wide and a little bit too much rocker for a really efficient foil drive board. So the second board I used was my go-to prone foil board, a Slingshot high roller, 4.6, 32 liters. So it was half the volume of the WingCraft, but a little bit longer. And I remember the first session, I was sitting on the board, or I was kneeling on the board, and I was like, oh, this is not enough volume. Second session, I accelerated and I got into a stable planning position. And I just realized I don't need the volume. This is different to winging. So in wing foiling, especially when you're a beginner, it's really good to have a little bit of an extra volume. If you have an additional 10 to 20 kilograms at the beginning to allow to be stable on your knees or even standing up and then accelerate with the wing, that's very important. But on a foil drive, it's a different story. All you need to achieve is a stable planning position. And it's nice to have some volume, but you don't need that much because you do have the engine to give you a push, and you can put your weight a little bit more to the back and then get forward, move your center of gravity a little forward once you're up on the water surface. And if you're dipping down because you're not having enough volume, you can just accelerate a little bit more. So the shape and the length and the planning surface is way more important than volume. And this is something I learned with the high roller. So I did roughly 10 sessions on the high roller 4.6, mainly to work on my takeoff technique and on the pop-up, getting the motor pod out of the water and starting to pump. And once I felt confident, I tried different boards already. I put the foil drive on the Sabfoil Torpedo 90 liters to see what it would handle like with the downwind board, and that was not a perfect match because the nose of the Sabfoil, it was just dipping down. It would pull into one direction. So I swapped for the Duotone Downwinder SLS at 85 liters, I think it was. And that was a lot better because it just had more of a planning hull and like a flat nose, a little bit less rocker. That was a lot better. I realized big boards are just not what I want. I want to go small, and that's what I got the foil drive for, to allow me to get up and going on small boards and small front wings and steel tanker waves. Everyone's different, everyone's got like a different approach with foil drive, but that was something I was chasing. And because the Slingshot High Roller 4.6 was such a good fit with the foil drive, I decided to get the smallest version available from the High Roller, which is the 4.0. It's 19 inches wide. It's got 29 liters of volume, and I thought that would be an absolute amazing fit. It turns out it wasn't, because the 4.6 is a little longer, not much more in volume. It's 32 versus 29 on the volume, but it's 4.6 versus 4.0 on the length, and that actually made a huge difference. I could get up, I could crawl on my knees, I could get up and ride, but I was just wasting so much power and energy on the takeoffs that my sessions were instantly lasting shorter. I was good on the slim, but on the endurance battery, I was lacking a little bit of power, actually, I really did. And so I went back to the 4.6 as my daily driver, not to give up on the 4.0, but to work on my takeoff technique. And I went from a takeoff where I would crawl on my knees first and then get into a standing position to more of a surf-prone takeoff where you jump up immediately. And once I had it dialed in on the 4.6, I went back to the 4.0. And that was a little bit of a game changer. The board itself is still not as efficient like this one. And you can really, like if you look at the lengths, you can really tell the difference in lengths, and you can really tell the difference in the water just from the efficiency. And this still is the more efficient board. But I made this work. It was hard effort. I have a really nice takeoff technique now, so I'm not wasting too much energy on the takeoff. It's still a shorter runtime on the battery, but I can make it work. And I have a tiny board, and that's what I was actually looking for surfing tanker waves. So let me just put the 4.6 back for a second and get into a few more details. So riding the 4.0 high roller over a longer period of time as my daily driver on a foil drive setup, I realized a few more things that could be optimized. One of them was the double concave. The double concave goes all the way pretty much up to here. I can still feel it here. So if you put the foil drive on, there's a little bit of a gap right here, and right here. If you're a rocker, if you have a board where the rocker starts very early, there's foam pads that you can put on the nose cone to close the gap. I didn't have to do it. It wasn't really bothering me, but that was just something you could fix if you wanted to make a board from scratch. So I would go for a flat surface, maybe up to here. The second thing I realized is that these beveled rails, they're really nice in the surf to hold onto the board, especially with a foil attached, because then you have a lot of forces pulling on the board, and this just allows me and my small hands to control the board perfectly. But at the same time, it's wasted energy on the battery because the planning surface is just smaller, and you can feel the difference to other boards, and I wish it was stretched out just a little bit more. So after this, I actually changed my wing foil board, and of course I had to take my wing foil board out on the foil drive as well. So this was not really a progression I was trying to make in terms of a new replacement for that one. It was just something I wanted to try. And this is a Slingshot FlowCraft 55 liters. I would usually go a lot smaller on the wing foil board. But because I'm on the River Rhine and we do have a lot of tankers and not that much wind when it drops down, I need to be able to pedal away or be holding up the wing on my knees to get out of the tanker line. So I need a little bit of volume, extra volume, as a safety measure. Like I said, I'm 65 or 70 kilograms in the winter, so 55 is a sinker. But like I said, usually I would go for 45, I guess. So if your homes would offer stronger winds on a regular basis and you maybe have a 45 or 35 liter FlowCraft, this would make up for a really nice foil drive board. It's got a really nice and fast tail. It's flat up to here, so it will fit the Slim and the Max with both the nose cones. It's not too wide, it's nice and long, not too much rocker, which is nice, so acceleration is really good. And if there's one thing I don't need, that's strap inserts. I'm moving my feet a lot more on the foil drive than I do on a winging board. If you got the engine engaged and you're accelerating, it's kind of pushing you up, so you need your front foot to be a little bit more forward to counterbalance that force. And once you are up and letting go of the trigger, I'm just moving my front foot a little bit back. Back foot mostly stays in the same position, centered on the mast. And once I hit a tanker wave, I'm sometimes even going a little bit behind the mast to feel the front foot a little bit more, and then move that one a little bit forward. And that just feels better for me, but I'm used to ride with a lot of front foot pressure. So perfect fit on the FlowCraft, especially the small sizes. But if I had an option to go without the strap inserts, I would probably go just to save on weight. And the next board I used was actually the foil drive SUNOVA, but there's another one overlapping, and I just want to go over this one real quick. It's the Duotone Skybrid, and that's another wing foil board, a hybrid shape. A lot of people these days use downwind boards or smaller downwind boards for light wind winging, and I think Duotone came up with a Skybrid to give you a dedicated wing foil board that has a little bit more length to get you up and going as quick as possible, and that works really nice for foil drive as well. It's flat here again. There's a similar shape. It's like a windsurf tail from the 80s, 90s, similar to the one on the high roller, and it's a little narrower and stretched out, not much rocker, but still forgiving on the touchdowns. Nose is a little bit wider than it is on the Slingshot FlowCraft, making it a little bit more forgiving on touchdowns. So that's a really good option if you wanted something as a beginner getting into foil drive and at the same time use it as a wing foil board. This one's 55 liters, so it's the same amount of volume like I have in the FlowCraft, and this just accelerates really, really quick. If I had to pick one in between, if I would go for like a surf, open ocean scenario, I would pick the FlowCraft because it's just a little bit more surf orientated and easier to get out of the wave. If it was flat water mainly, I'll probably pick the Duotone. I'm gonna make a decent review on both of them soon, but they're a really nice pad with a foil drive. And if you drop down to smaller sizes, maybe for a beginner, a 55 liter board would just be perfect. But especially on the FlowCraft, dropping down to 35 liters, it's almost, or it probably is, a really nice, if not perfect, foil drive board. So let's move on to the board we've all been waiting for, which is the SUNOVA foil drive board. And there's different sizes. I actually got the smallest one, which is a 4.8 and 39 liters. And to be honest, my expectations were not the best, coming from the Slingshot high rollers from 32 liters and 29 liters. Going up in volume was not something I was looking for. I thought it would be too long and have too much of a swing rate once you're up on foil, but I was wrong on that. Let's start with the graphics real quick. Design and stuff. It's one of my favorite boards in terms of look. This should be the last thing you're concerned about, but I think the way they just integrated the foil drive logo, see on the side, it's stained blue with like a little kind of wooden structure right here, and then you got the clear carbon look on the rails, foil drive logo and SUNOVA logo on both sides. Having a big and long traction pad on the top surface is really nice. Like I said, I'm moving around a lot on the foil drive, counterbalancing the thrust, and then once I hit a wave, I'm moving slightly forward. So this gives me more than enough room to walk around. There's a flat area here, so you don't have any problems with mounting the foil drive. Connection is perfect. The tail is really narrow, pointy, and quick and fast. They actually managed to get some beveled rails that still feel nice. You can hold onto them even in the surf, but still the surface area here is pretty big. There's a slight bump here in the middle and a slight concave, but not going very far, so it's perfectly suited for the foil drive like you would imagine. But it's not a foil drive exclusive board. If you compare to the other prone surf boards, it's not really far off. They stretched it out just a little bit, but this would still make up for a really, really good prone foil board. You could take it out winging, you could take it out behind the boat. So there's a lot of user cases for this board. SUNOVA just made sure it ticks all the foil drive boxes, and it really does. Now let me get back to the size and why I thought it would be just too big. If I compare it, if I put it down like here, and I've just grabbed the smallest one I used for a longer period of time, and I'm gonna put it so it lines up in terms of where my feet are. So my feet on the high roller are just behind this little line. So this is where I stand on the high roller. And if I step up to the SUNOVA and do the same, you can see that a lot of the weight and volume is actually hiding behind my back foot. Maybe I'm a little bit more back like this, but you can still see the additional volume and the surface area is actually hiding, and the swing rate and the boards that's sticking out in front of my foot is not very much, even compared to the 4.0, and I think it would be the same on the 4.6. So I liked the SUNOVA right from the beginning, but it took me a few sessions to really appreciate the added volume and the extra length. Like I said, swing rate, I thought it would be a problem, it wasn't. And the additional volume allowed me to drop down even further on the front wing, which was really nice. I dropped down to the Razor Pro 775, and I was not able to start it on the Slingshot High Roller 4.0, but it was first try on the SUNOVA. And the second thing, batteries just last longer. And that's by not only a tiny amount, that's probably compared to the Slingshot High Roller, it's 20%, and compared to the Slingshot High Roller 4.6, it's still at least 10%. So the next benefit I realized was that it's a lot easier on paddling. Coming back from a tanker wave, running low on battery, it was just so much more efficient in the water. On the 29 liters, and especially because it's so short and a little bit wider, it paddles slow, and this one would just paddle really nice. And on a lot of tanker waves, I actually try to save as much battery as I can for the return. So I paddle towards the tanker, and just last second, I engage the foil drive. I get up, pop up, catch the wake, and then I surf 4-6 kilometers. And the Slim doesn't have enough power to get back all the way. So I do intervals of pumping for maybe a minute, and then a minute foil drive to relax again. And then I pump for another minute, and pumping sessions get shorter the longer I go. So there's one more thing that just came to my mind. I used the SUNOVA foil drive with both the Max and the Slim. And on the Slim, if you take the endurance battery, it's a different volt architecture. It's got a little bit less power, but it was perfectly fine on the SUNOVA because of the length, the shape, and the efficiency of this whole setup. It was just not a big difference, and I could easily get up even on smaller foils using the endurance battery, making the session even longer. And I'm struggling using the endurance battery on small boards like this one. It's fine on the 4.6, it doesn't work so good on the 4.0, and it takes a lot more power and a longer period of time to get up on foil, and I end up with pretty much the same amount of running time. So there's not a big benefit from using the larger nose cone and the bigger battery, but there is a really noticeable benefit in the SUNOVA board. So I had run times, I was out for almost an hour, but that is catching tanker waves and then pumping and foiling back and catching the next tanker wave. So that was really sweet. I think that's a really nice pair and another benefit of that extra volume and length. So would I use the SUNOVA foil drive board as a daily driver? And yes, I would, and I did the last couple of weeks. I really enjoyed it. I'm pretty sad I have to send it back. It's got a nice grip, a little bit of concave right here, so it's ticking all my boxes. If I would make a wish list, there would be not much I would change. Maybe I would drop down a little bit in volume, going from 39 to maybe 35 or something, but being able to start a Sabfoil Razor Pro 775 is actually pretty sweet, because once you're up in the wave or wake, it's so radical. Swing rate was not an issue. I thought that would be a problem, but it's not at all. It's a very light and what seems to be a very durable construction. So it's a very well built board, and yeah, it's a clear recommendation. Really enjoyed that one. So if you have questions on the SUNOVA, on the foil drive, on the SUNOVA pad with the foil drive, just leave a comment and I will try to help you out. So there's one more board we haven't touched for a reason, and that's right over here. It's the Wake foil board by Slingshot. It's only 19 liters and I haven't tried it yet, but I want to put the Slim and the Max on it. Foam inserts are already in the tracks. I will give it a go pretty soon. So if you're interested in this and maybe some more content, make sure to follow my channel, and I'm hopefully gonna see you back in a couple days, minutes, whatever. Take care.